everybody. All right, so today I'm going to be talking a little bit about flow. This is from chapter 8 in OnCourse, okay? So that's a textbook we are using by Skip Downing, okay? So let's talk about flow. What is flow, first of all? So flow is when we're engaged in an activity that we enjoy and that challenges us, and we get immersed in it to the point where time goes by so quickly. We're like, where did the time go? We're so focused and immersed in what we're doing that kind of allows us to forget about our problems and our troubles, right? So before TV came along, flow was the way to go. Now we've got all these electronic devices and things that distract us from, whatever we're doing or whatever negative stuff that's happening in our life is. So when we look for an escape, we might look to, read a book or go watch a movie or watch a show, binge watch shows on Netflix, do get on TikTok, do some Snapchatting. We have a lot of options of how to, spend our time. So why choose activities that create flow over just generic, like, everybody does that electronics kind of stuff? And let me give you a good answer here. So flow is a better escape, much better than just watching TV or just doing something, because usually when you create flow, you have something to show for the time that you spent. So you have, like, let's look at it this way. So 10 years from now, are you going to care that you watched Tiger King on Netflix during quarantine? And maybe you'll look back 10 years from now and be like, yeah, I'm really glad I caught every episode of Tiger King, because my life would not be complete without that. But more likely, I'm guessing 10 years from now, when you look back, you'll be like, wow, I can't believe I was spending all that time watching Tiger King when I could have been doing a number of other activities that would have been, would have resulted in me getting a little further in my life. Just saying. So flow is actually something that trains you to work and to enjoy working. But it doesn't feel like work. So it's actually the best type of work. And if you are the kind of person who kind of is like, what do I want to do for a living? Like, what really makes me excited? Okay, look at the activities that you currently experience flow in. Okay, so some people say to me, well, I experience flow in video games. Okay, let's talk about that. I get you, because you probably do. You probably know exactly what I'm talking about, because when you engage with a video game, you are locked in. You are in that world with a set of parameters, laws, everything else. There might be other people there that you kind of connect with. And this is true of any online activity, regardless of whether it's like a video game or a chat server or something like that. You're connecting with other people. That's why social media is so popular, right? I think the least flow activity that's electronic would probably be like watching TV, because it's really passive. Like, you see people watching TV and they're like, that's what they look like when they're watching. They're just right. So watching TV is probably not a good flow activity. Like, you cannot really create flow because you're not really doing anything. So flow requires your participation. That means you have to be involved in actually doing something to create flow. So sometimes I create flow by writing poetry, or by writing, I'll write like short stories or articles or things like that. Now, there's a difference between like flow. Like, I get to choose what I do. So like when I'm a writer, I create flow by writing. But when I choose what stories I want to write and choose what I want to do, then it's easier to create flow, because I'm kind of in control of everything. But it's harder for me to create flow when someone gives me an assignment. Like, I recently had an assignment where I had to figure out what the best baby, I don't know, baby toys were. I don't know. It's like, oh, you know what it was? It was the best 3-year-old girl, 3-year-old boy toys, okay, of 2019. So I had to go through, and they're all on Amazon. So I had to go through on Amazon and look up all these different things and write that article. Was I in a flow state when I did that? No. I was kind of like, geez, this is very tedious and boring and long. But the fact that I had created flow with writing in my personal life allowed me to focus more easily on, writing for, work, which isn't as fun, right? So I guess what I'm saying is you're training yourself to immerse into this flow state. Now, there's benefits of being in the flow state, which is that you are actually so immersed in what you're doing that you're actually learning or becoming, I guess, more and more of an expert at this thing every single day that you're putting in time and practice. So let's give some examples of some activities that might create flow. So I think any creative type of activity, so if you're like an artist and you like to paint or draw, you probably achieve a flow state when you're doing those things. If you are a runner and you like to run really long distances, or you're really into working out, like you go to the gym and you're, in your zone, you can create flow in those situations as well. If you play a sport, you can definitely be in a flow state while you're doing your sport. I don't know if you guys know this, but I used to play soccer. I was actually playing Division I college soccer on a scholarship. So I was really into soccer. And I felt like I was in a flow state when I was out there playing most of the time. Sometimes I couldn't even hear my coach yelling at me. Like, I'm sure I should have listened to him or heard him, but sometimes I was so immersed in what I was doing in the game that I didn't even hear him. Some other things, some people find that their job actually is something where they feel flow with it. I feel like that with teaching. I don't know if I'm so used to making these videos, but I'm getting there. I'm getting better, I hope. But I do love lecturing. I do love interacting with students. I feel like that's a good thing for me, and I feel good about it. I also feel good about creating content for you guys, like to just your assignments and things like that. That I can achieve flow in those situations as well with my job. So if you actually can create flow in your job, awesome. The cool part about flow is that you can create it anytime you want by choosing the right type of activity for yourself. So there's some criteria that your activities have to meet in order to achieve that flow state, okay? So first of all, like I said, it has to be an active thing. Like you have to be actively involved in order for you to be in a flow state, okay? It's going to you want an activity that is not too easy for you, because if you choose something that's too easy, and this is where video games and me start to have troubles, because if you become an expert in the game, then the game itself becomes too easy, and you kind of do have to move on to a different game or do something else in order to continue to achieve flow with a game, because if you learn something completely, you're no longer in a flow state. You're in like kind of this passive, like I already know that state. And when you do that, you get to be kind of complacent. And then when you do have to really learn something new or get challenged, you're not really ready for it, right? So flow really helps you to stay ready for new challenges. So it's good to create it, even if it's with video games or some kind of, thing like that. It's good to create flow, however you need to do that. So you want to choose something that is either at your level or just slightly above the level you're at to challenge yourself. So if it's, like I said, too easy, it's going to be boring. If it's too hard, then, you got another type of problem, and that is it's too difficult. So you might get frustrated and not want to continue. And I've had that feeling too with writing assignments. I just want to throw the writing assignment back, say, no, thank you, I don't want to do that, even though I agreed to do it. Because maybe they want too much in too small of amount of time, or maybe it's a really long article and I wasn't planning on that. But whatever, if it's too hard, then you're going to be so busy worrying about, am I doing this right? But you won't be able to achieve flow the way that you want to. So what I was going to say about flow is that if you choose the right level or the right activity, then you will be challenged, and when you are challenged, that makes you grow. And when you grow, then you become a better person, and you have more skills and things that you can then use hopefully at your job someday. So I remember this one time, I was like maybe 16, maybe a little younger. I went to the Renaissance Fair. I don't know if anybody's into Ren Fair, but I liked it. It was pretty cool. While I was there, I picked up these juggling sticks, okay? And I don't know how to describe them other than you got two sticks in your hand, and they're just like basically like a stick like this big, wood, in each hand. And then there's a longer stick, also wood, and on the end are like weighted tassels. They're usually made out of like leather or fake leather. So then you use these sticks to kind of twirl and throw the stick up in the air and then catch the stick. Okay, so that was my good like reenactment of that. So I got these sticks and I went outside and I started practicing with them, and they were really difficult to use. And this is back in the time before YouTube tutorials, when you couldn't just like go online and watch a video. Okay, so I'm old. So I went inside and I told my mom, these sticks were expensive, I know, but I'm having trouble using them. I don't know what to do. And she just said, just go practice with them and eventually you'll figure it out, which was probably a good answer. So I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how these things work. Finally, I realized, oh my gosh, this is how you do it. So once I kind of got the basic principle down, then it was like, okay, cool. And I started playing with these things. I started doing all kinds of crazy tricks. I got really good at it. And I actually started going down to, I don't know if you guys know about Venice Beach, but I used to go to Venice Beach and I would twirl my little sticks in the air. And sometimes people would even give me money for it. So it could have been because I was in a bikini, but it could have also been because I was twirling the sticks really well. I was young too, so it was a little creepy, but it was a little. Anyways, so I was twirling my sticks, getting better day by day, and my mom kind of said, you have a lot of other stuff that you should be doing. Why are you working with these sticks? And I said, I don't know. It just makes me feel good to work with them. I enjoy becoming better and better at this skill every day. And she goes, yeah, but it's a skill that you're never going to use. Heard that before? I'm sure you have. And I was like, how do you know? Maybe I will use, maybe I will use this skill someday. Who knows? Anyway, maybe a year later, I was on the cheerleading team my junior year of my high school, and I really sucked. I was not the best cheerleader. I practiced a lot. I got the most improved award for the end of the year, and they reserve that for like the person that sucks the most to improve. So that was me. But I wanted to like still be able to hang out with all my friends and still be in cheer, but I didn't want to have to do all the cheers because honestly, it was a lot of work, and I was doing a lot of other things too. So I decided to go out for mascot. And when I did that, I decided that I was going to incorporate the sticks into my tryout. And so I did my sticks for the tryout, and everybody was just like mind blown that I could do that in addition to all the things that I know how to do. They're like, wow, and Amy also twirls these crazy sticks. So I was the mascot my senior year. We had a girl one and a boy one. I was the girl one. But anyway, I did use those sticks a lot. So after that, after high school, I was like, well, I may never use these again. I don't know. But turns out, like, I ran a haunted house for many years, and we actually used the sticks one year for like a juggling section, jugglers, and I taught them how to use them. And it was so. You know what? It turns out knowing that skill wasn't a bad thing to know. I kind of feel like when you learn things like that, like you might think, I never am going to use this again, but it might actually teach you just the skill of learning how to do something from start to finish, or just the skill of mastering something. And for some of us, we need to feel that sense of mastery in order to feel more confidence in our abilities as human beings. So if you're just sitting on the couch watching TV, you're not challenging yourself to figure out what you're good at and what you're not good at. You're just basically sitting there and you're not really engaging with the world. So, I mean, even video games, I think, are a step up from watching TV because at least they're like somewhat interactive. Um, Chatting online, same thing. It's like you're interacting a little bit more than if you're just sitting there passively and watching something. I remember I gave up TV a while back because I realized like how passive it is and how it really doesn't teach you anything. And literally any other activity besides TV is probably a better choice. So I stopped watching TV. I don't know who's in what movie because I don't go to movies either. But that's because I prefer to live a life where I'm kind of achieving flow on a regular basis. I definitely achieve flow daily with my writing and with my work. And it's nice to have that feeling to be able to have a job where I'm doing something that I love and that fulfills me enough to where I get engrossed in it and I'm excited about it. So like I'm really excited about this video because I'm excited to help you guys. So flow is cool. So you can create it any old way you want. I have another example of a student who created a flow state that might be useful to you. So I think this was like a summer school at some point. I don't remember the student's name. I wish I did. But he was a young man where his family had kind of given up on him because he hadn't really, done much since high school. and had failed classes and was, about to get kicked out of school. And his parents had been pretty hard on him. And I had given a lecture about flow and how to create flow and about mastery, wanting to master the world around us. And the more that you engage with the world and seek to master different things, the better you're going to feel about yourself, because you're going to be gaining skills and knowledge that you can use. It's useful. So this student decided that he was going to learn how to yo-yo. And he went out and bought this cool yo-yo, and he brought it in. And I remember he showed me the first day, he had bought it out of the box. And I was like, oh, do you know any tricks, or do you know how to do anything? And he said, not yet. I just bought it. Okay. And so he was just barely kind of playing with it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. By the end of the summer term, I think it was 8 weeks, he was doing crazy tricks. I mean, just insane tricks with this yo-yo. And I asked him how often he spent the day with his yo-yo. And he said, actually, sometimes several hours a day, because he was having such a good time with it. And he liked the feedback of, oh, I actually learned a new trick and I can show it to people. I want to learn another trick. So it may seem kind of dumb, like, oh, he just learned to do a yo-yo. Who cares, right? But for him, that was kind of a breakthrough. So for him, he was able to show himself, I can learn how to do something from start to finish, to go from being a novice to becoming an expert. So by the end of the 8-week class, he said, I am now definitely achieving flow with yo-yoing. And I think I'm ready to move on to some harder stuff, like school stuff and maybe job stuff. And I can apply what I learned with the yo-yo to these other things. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you want to start learning how to achieve flow, pick something that you can do, that you learn to do, that you've always wanted to do. My newest thing is I am learning how to do makeup, because I was always a tomboy and I never did makeup, and I always would just do the bare minimum. And I noticed, I'm getting older and I'm having to do these videos now and stuff, and I've got to learn how to do this. So I started watching some makeup video tutorials, and voila, I think my makeup looks better. Hopefully it'll keep looking better every week as we go through. So every time I get bored, I just think, what new skill can I master? How can I add to the skills that I'm already working on? So like I said, I'm a writer, so I'm working on a lot of different projects right now with that, because that's a time when I can actually immerse myself and enter a flow state. So imagine a day like you wake up and you achieve flow almost, constantly throughout the day. Flow is such a fulfilling feeling. It's kind of a feeling of escape, like I'm escaping from the real world and doing this thing that I love. But it's also a feeling of being good at something. Like, it's something that you have worked hard to get to. It's something that you have control over, because you control how much you're going to practice or not practice. You control, a lot of the scenario of how you're going to do things. So it is something that is under control for you. And it feels good to do this activity. Like, it's just the act of doing it that feels awesome. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, find something. Think about the things you're already doing that you probably create flow in your life in. Maybe it's at work. There's a certain job that you do that you just feel like, yeah, I'm in the zone. I'm doing this, okay? Or you feel really confident in, like, I can do anything. I'm the best at this, kind of thing. Another thing that I feel like I created flow with was in soccer. I don't know if you guys know what juggling is, but it's basically when you keep the ball off the ground, but you're the only one touching it, and you have to keep it up in the air. But like, we're doing juggling this week with our hands, but in soccer, you juggle with everything except your arms. So you have to use like your feet and your legs and your head to keep the ball up. My coach made us juggle for 2 minutes at a time. And he would say, anybody who does the full 2 minutes does not have to run. And I was like, oh, I don't want to have to run, because I hate running. I really hate running. So I learned quickly how to juggle for 2 minutes. But then he saw it was too easy for me, so he started upping it to 3 minutes and 5 minutes and all this kind of stuff. And so I learned how to juggle for as long as I need to. And I think my record was something like 30 minutes of juggling at one of the practices, which is pretty long. Because I mean, I had never learned to juggle. I was probably like, 17, and I never learned to juggle because I was like, I don't see the point of it. But when there was a point, then I was like, okay, I better do this. So now, like when I feel really like, gosh, I just need to get out and do something, I might take my soccer ball and like do some juggling. And I noticed that that is a flow state for me. I just kind of go into this like blissful, like just focus on what I'm doing kind of state, and it feels really good. Okay, so here's the final thing that I want you to take home from this. Okay, remember when we talked about happiness? What creates happiness? Flow is one of the things on the list. In fact, it's the first thing on the list that creates happiness. So the more flow that you experience in your daily life, the happier you're going to feel. Why? Because you're in the moment, which is another thing that means, that leads to happiness is being in the moment, being present. So when you're watching TV, you're not really present. You're passive, right? Even when you're playing video games, I don't know how physically present you are in that situation, or how your mind is present. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, depending on the video game that you're playing. Okay? And then with social media and stuff like that, you may be present, but it's not really an activity where you're just interacting, with yourself. It's more of an activity where you're engaging with a bunch of other people. Can a group of people achieve flow together? Yes, 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 they can. So like teams, for example, like my soccer team or like a gymnastics team, or when teams are really in sync and working together, then yeah, they can totally create flow together. And you get that feeling when everything's going really well and everybody's doing their part. Yes, your team is working together, flow. So can you create flow online? I think so. But I think it's best achieved I would say, I think it's most useful and helpful to you in terms of building up your self-esteem, your self-confidence, and your self-awareness if you're doing a task that's just you and the task. So even though you can create flow in a group, and that's great, I think it's good to know how to create flow yourself first and then be able to kind of open it up and do it in a group setting. Creating flow as a group, there's nothing like it, but we're actually going to be talking about that. I think this week in Habit 7. So I'll be talking to you guys about, kind of creating like a group flow type of thing. So that's it. That's all I got for you. So go out there and create flow. Feel free to tell me about it if you do have an experience where you do create flow out of something that you decided to just kind of pick up and do. All right. Good luck.